So Casey, I guess every all council can be, yeah. Allison, can you go?
If they can see it here and I can see it there.
I'm sure nothing I'm saying. So,
Hello. There, okay, it went off when I said
okay. And then. Perfect. And then does Judge have the page ones?
she should, yeah, we gave them.
Okay. You can? Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Stacey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take my time walking down the hall, just so we
Yes,
can leave it.
please do.
All right.
Are you new? I go by Casey. You hear someone saying Casey, like the letters. Then you won't be confused, because it's not really capitalized.
Just gotta rearrange real quick.
Oh,
so
you're
that you
good.
guys both-
Whatever.
Allison.
Mr. Argus, could you, Ms. Frank's gonna step up for a moment. I just wanna, I have a new court recorder, also for another day, if you would just give her your appearances, that's when we get started.
If you want the microphone on the other one, so I'll do that.
Well, maybe just so the video can, just in case.
I'm sorry. I'm going to let this is her prayer name. Did Mr. Jackson already leave? Ready?
You're so close. I haven't been all that. And this is, this is Ernest, he's one of the prosecutors.
Okay.
Gene.
James, do you want to go on back? Okay, I'm gonna call him now, so if you want to go ahead and get. I don't believe you did, I just gave it.
Oh, great. Are you gonna be part of that? Yes. Okay. Is it time to do it? Is he pleading today?
So we're talking about prosecutor on Friday, and they're set to go in 2 months.
Okay.
So,
Is Jim represented in the Summit County?
now, he is here.
Oh, yeah. B200
And,
3360. B200.
I'm gonna start the jury trial.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and calm them down and have a big jury response. And then so we'll see.
All right, let's see if we can have now.
Okay.
Morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, we're gonna go on the record, State of Ohio versus Gene Jackson. Case number B20-04926 and case number B20-03360. I understand that we're here today on a change of plea on both cases. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Eckes?
That's right.
And for the record, could everybody enter their appearances? I'll start with the state.
Casey Fisher on behalf of the state.
Ernest Lee on behalf of the state.
Eric Eckes, on behalf of Mr. Jackson, who appears today, Your Honor, out of custody but on bond.
And Stephanie Kessler also on behalf of Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for preparing the forms early, which is very helpful for me. Let me start with the defense. Do you have any motions that are pending that need to be resolved before we get started?
I do not believe so, Judge. There was some drafting, but I don't believe I ever filed it because the resolution happened right after they were drafted, so I don't believe there's anything on the record unresolved.
All right, and Mr. Jackson, I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions this morning. So before we get started, if you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the statements you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with your waiver of your right to have a trial by jury. I have two forms here, the same form for each case number. Did you read these waiver forms?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Did you go over those with your attorneys before you signed them?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you sign each of these forms?
Yes, Your Honor.
These forms say that you have the right to have a trial by jury. That means a jury would sit in the jury box, listen to the evidence, and the jury would decide whether or not you're guilty. Do you understand that you have that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyone promise you anything or threaten you with anything to get you to waive your right to have a trial by jury?
No, Your Honor.
Did you sign each form of your own free will?
I did, Your Honor.
And did you have the opportunity to ask questions of your attorneys about your waiver?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions for me about waiving your right to a jury trial?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right, then I will accept your waiver of your right to a jury trial in each case. At this point, I'd ask, is Ms. Fisher, are you taking the lead for the state today?
Yes, Judge.
All right, if you could put the plea agreement on the record for me.
Yes, Judge. So we have two case numbers that I believe you had previously joined, but I'll go through each one of them separately. B2003360. My understanding is the defendant is going to be entering a plea of guilty to count 1 as amended to gross sexual imposition, count 3 as charged, count 4 amended to sexual imposition, count 6 amended to sexual imposition, and then count 1 on the B2004926, count 1 amended to sexual imposition, and count 3 amended to sexual imposition. Counts 2 and 5 on the 3360 are being dismissed, and count 2 on the 4926 are being dismissed. My understanding is that the defendant is going to be entering a guilty plea to those charges, as I stated. I know there's been a lot of discussion between the state and the defense. This is kind of an agreed proposed sentence that's on the plea form. Do you want me to go through that now?
If you could put the agreed recommended sentence
Yes.
on the record.
That would be, obviously, the defendant entering these pleas will be a tier 1 sex offender by law. He will be supervised by the Hamilton County Sex Offender Probation Unit for a period of 5 years. He will enter and complete the secure Turtle Creek Sex Offender Correctional Program. He will successfully complete that program. He is eligible to petition for non-reporting probation after 3 years, but that will be up to the court and his probation officer. He is also agreeing to that there will be no change in bond between today and the sentencing date, that should he violate his community control, he is facing 36 months in prison, that the 2 felony gross sexual imposition charges are separate victims, they do run consecutively to each other, that he will not engage in any kind of crystal healing, Reiki, massage, or other alternative healing. That is all part of the plea agreement. Did I miss anything?
Sounds like it.
Okay.
And Mr.
Oh,
Chair,
I'm sorry, I did forget one thing, Judge, that he is not going to contest 5-year no contact post-conviction protection orders. It's Ohio Form 10G for each victim.
That's very good.
and Mr. Jackson, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson, I have a couple of background questions for you. How old are you today?
63. Wait, 64. I just turned 64.
And how far did you get in your education?
Graduated high school.
Now, I ask everyone this, so don't be insulted. Are you able to read and write?
I am, Your Honor.
Are you a citizen of the United States?
I am, Your Honor.
Today, are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or prescription medications?
I am not, Your Honor.
Currently or in the past, have you suffered from or been treated for a mental illness?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything or threatened you with anything to get you to plead guilty to these charges today?
No, Your Honor.
Have your attorneys explained everything to you and answered all of your questions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Eckes and Ms. Kessler as your attorneys?
I am, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Fisher, I understand that the plea negotiations have been worked out between the state and Mr. Jackson and his attorneys. Have the officers in the case of the victims been informed of the plea agreement?
Yes, Judge, they have. I do have some of the victims who are present in the courtroom today, as well as the detective. And then some of the other victims prefer to watch the live stream, which we do appreciate the court setting up today. Everyone has been supportive of resolving the case in this manner.
Now, this is a recommended agreed sentence, Mr. Jackson. It's my understanding that the state, your attorneys, the officers, and the victims are all recommending the sentence as the state just stated to me. Now, do you understand that it is a recommendation? It is not actually your sentence in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that I do not have to give or impose the recommended sentence? It is a recommendation. Of course, I will consider it because I do appreciate everybody working hard to a resolution on this case, but I do not have to follow the recommended sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's no guarantee what your sentence will be before you plead guilty today. When sentencing comes, I can give you more time in prison. I can give you less time in prison. I can give you probation. I can give you jail term. Do you understand that all those options are available to me at the time of sentencing?
Well, Judge.
I do, Your Honor.
Now, knowing that there's no guarantee what your sentence will be, do you still wish to go forward with a guilty plea today on both cases?
I do, Your Honor.
Did you receive a copy of the indictment in each case?
I did, Your Honor.
And are you the Gene Jackson listed in each indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
At this point, I'll ask Ms. Fisher to provide me with a brief statement on the facts.
Yes, Judge, and we would ask for a waiver of all defects, reissuance, and rearrangement as to the amendments that are being made.
Any objection as to the waiver?
No objection.
I'll start with B2003360, count 1. In Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on an undetermined date in October of 2005, Gene Jackson did purposely have sexual contact with GS, who was not his spouse, and at the time, for the purpose of preventing resistance, he did substantially impair the judgment or control of GS by surreptitiously or deceptively administering an intoxicant to GS. Count 3. In Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on an undetermined date between January 1st and December 31st, 2013, Gene Jackson did purposely have sexual contact with DB, who was not his spouse, and at the time, for the purpose of preventing resistance, he substantially impaired the judgment or control of DB by surreptitiously or deceptively administering an intoxicant to DB. Count 4, in Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on an undetermined date in October of 2017, Gene Jackson did knowingly have sexual contact with CT, not his spouse, and Gene Jackson knew that the sexual contact was offensive to CT or is reckless in that regard. Count 6, in Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on or about December 17, 2018, Gene Jackson did knowingly have sexual contact with AG, not his spouse, and he knew the sexual contact was offensive to AG or was reckless in that regard. Moving on to case B2004926, count 1, in Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on an undetermined date in December of 2016, Gene Jackson did knowingly have sexual contact with JM, not his spouse, and Gene Jackson knew the sexual contact was offensive to JM or was reckless in that regard. Count 3, in Hamilton County, state of Ohio, on an undetermined date between September 1st and October 31st, 2017, Gene Jackson did knowingly have sexual contact with AF, who was not his spouse, and Gene Jackson knew the contact was offensive to AF or was reckless in that regard.
Mr. Jackson, did you hear the prosecutor's statement of the facts on each case?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you agree that those facts are true and accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, it's my understanding from the plea agreement that the state will be dismissing counts 2 and 5 on the B20-03360 case and count 2 on the B20-04926 case. Is that your understanding?
Yes, Your Honor.
That leaves you faced with the following counts on the B20-03360 case. Count 1, gross sexual imposition, a felony in the 4th degree. Count 3, gross sexual imposition, a felony in the 4th degree. Count 4 and count 6, both are sexual imposition, a misdemeanor in the 3rd degree. How do you plead as to those counts?
Guilty, Your Honor.
On case number B20-04926, on count 1, you are faced with sexual imposition, and in count 3, you are also faced with sexual imposition, both a misdemeanor in the 3rd degree. How do you plead as to those counts?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Before I can accept your plea, I have to make sure that you understand all the consequences of pleading guilty. First of all, do you understand that a guilty plea is a complete admission of guilt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you plead guilty today, I can accept your plea and enter judgment and also sentence you today? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree to subject yourself to whatever penalty I impose up to the maximum allowed by law?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, the sentencing discussion I'm going to have with you is the maximum penalties that you face. On the case ending in 3360, on counts 1 and 3, you face a maximum prison term of 18 months on each case and a maximum fine of $5,000 on each count. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
In addition, in that case, on the 2 misdemeanors, you face a maximum jail term of 60 days in jail on each count and a maximum fine of $500 on each count. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
On the case ending in 4926, those are also misdemeanors with a maximum, each count carries a maximum jail term of 60 days and a maximum fine of $500. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, if I were to sentence you consecutively on each count on each case, the total prison term would be 36 months in prison. In addition, you would face 240 days in jail. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The maximum fine would be $12,000 if I added all the fines up and ordered you to pay each fine on each count in each case. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, in addition, I could order you to pay court costs. If there is any restitution, I could order you to pay restitution. And if you are sent not to prison or jail, but put on probation, I could order you to pay probation fees. Do you understand all those additional terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, if I do agree to and impose the recommended sentence that you and the state have discussed and recommended to me, and if I send you to prison on this case at any point, do you understand that if you are sent to prison or serve any prison term on these cases, the term would be served without good time credit and you would not be eligible for judicial release or early release? Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you are sent to prison, you may be eligible to earn days of credit, however, those days of credit are up to 8% of your stated prison term, but those days of credit are not automatic, you have to earn them. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you are sent to prison, parole board may put you on post-release control for a period of up to 2 years on counts 1 and 3 in the case ending in 3360. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand if you're sent to prison and you're released early and you're put on post-release control and you violate a condition of your post-release control, then the parole board may send you back to prison for a period of up to 9 months. And if you have repeated violations, they can send you back to prison for up to 50% of your stated prison term. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you commit a new felony while on post-release control, you may be sent back to prison by the parole board for the remaining post-release control period or 12 months, whichever is greater?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand if you're convicted of a new felony while on post-release control, you'd have to serve that prison term after you complete your prison term on each of these, on case 3360. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, instead of prison or jail, I could impose community control, what is called probation. And the maximum term for probation is 5 years. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you violate a condition of your community control, you could be sent to prison for the maximum term of 36 months? Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
And on the misdemeanor cases, you may also face jail time if you violate your probation. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you feel you understand the charges against you and the possible penalties you face?
I do, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions for me at this point?
I do not, Your Honor.
Are you currently on probation, parole, community control anywhere in the country?
I am not, Your Honor.
Next, I want to go over your rights to have a trial. You have the right to have a trial. You have the right to have a speedy trial. You have the right to have a trial before a jury or before me, the judge. And at trial, you have the right to be represented by an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed for you. Do you understand those trial rights?
I do, Your Honor.
And do you understand at trial, the prosecutor has to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt on each element of each charge against you, or you can be found guilty. Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
And at trial, your attorneys have the right to cross-examine every witness who testifies against you, and they have the power to subpoena witnesses to come to court to testify. Do you understand those rights?
I do, Your Honor.
And do you understand at trial, you are not required to testify. In fact, if you remain silent, no one can use your silence against you. Do you understand that right?
I do, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions for me about any of these rights that I've gone over with you?
I do not, Your Honor.
Do you wish to voluntarily waive your right to have a trial in each of these cases?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, I have your plea forms here. Each form is identical except for the case number. The form I have in my left hand is the case ending in 3360, and in my other hand is the case ending in 4926. Did you read each of these forms carefully?
I did, Your Honor.
Did you go over them with your attorneys?
I did, Your Honor.
They answered your questions about the plea forms.
They did, Your Honor.
Now, your plea form, on page 3, there's a line that says signature of defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I'm holding up the plea form on the second case, page 3, is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
In addition to your signature, there are a number of places where you have initialed on the form, including on the first page where it talks about the agreed recommended sentence. Are those your initials on page 1 of each form?
They are, Your Honor.
And there's also a page 4 on each of the plea forms that summarizes the agreed recommended sentence. Are those your initials on page 4 of each form
Yes, Your Honor.
that I'm holding up for you
Yes.
for the record? Thank you. Do you feel you understand what each plea form says and what it actually means?
I do, Your Honor.
Did you sign each plea form of your own free will?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you still wish to plead guilty to the charges we discussed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Eckes, anything further before I accept the plea?
No.
At this point, I would ask the state, before I accept the plea, if any victims would like to be heard on the plea agreement. We will have a separate date for sentencing, and victims will be offered the opportunity to speak at sentencing as well.
You guys good? They're good.
I'm sorry?
They're good. They do not wish to speak today, but I believe they will want to address the court at sentencing.
All right, thank you. Let the record reflect that Mr. Jackson was in court today with his attorney. I find, Mr. Jackson, that you have been informed of all of your constitutional rights and that you've made a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary waiver of your rights. I also find that you understand the nature of the plea, the effect of pleading guilty, as well as the maximum penalties that can be imposed. One second. I did forget one penalty, which I should put on the record at this point, or accept your plea, to make sure you agree to the additional penalty. Do you understand that if, that you are pleading guilty to sexually oriented offenses and that you will be classified as either a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sex offender if I find you guilty? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that depending on your classification, you'll have certain registration and continuing verification requirements and rules based upon your classification status? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that once classified, that you will have to register and continuing, and you will have a continuing verification requirement at certain intervals of time based on your classification status? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that it is a tier 1 sex offender that you would be required to register for a period of 15 years and provide in-person verification annually? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that it is possible, based on your classification, that the sheriff may be required to notify victims, neighbors, schools, churches, and other institutions of your name and address? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And depending on your tier status, do you understand that by virtue of being convicted of a sexually oriented offense, you may not reside within a certain amount of feet from a school, preschool, or daycare facility?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that you may also be required to give notice to the sheriff before you move?
Yes, Your Honor.
And finally, do you understand that if you fail to register or verify your registration, you will be subject to being charged with a separate felony offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knowing those additional possible penalties that you face, do you still wish to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson, I find that your plea is voluntary, and I will accept your plea of guilty on case number B20-03360, and I will find you guilty of count 1, gross sexual imposition in violation of 2907.0582, a felony in the 4th degree. I find you guilty of count 3, gross sexual imposition in violation of 2907.0582, also a felony in the 4th degree. And I find you guilty of counts 4 and 6, sexual imposition in violation of 2907.0681, both misdemeanors in the 3rd degree. And I find you guilty on case number B20-04926, count 1 and count 2, sexual imposition in violation of 2907.0681, each a misdemeanor in the 3rd degree. At this point, Mr. Ergis, is there any request for a pre-sentence investigation?
Judge, we do not, we are willing to waive any pre-sentence investigations, but we're also willing to comply with the orders of the court.
You also wanted to.
Willing to comply with any orders of the court,
Okay.
if there's anything I need from us.
I will request a pre-sentence investigation, which Mr. Jackson requires you to cooperate with probation between now and sentencing, because probation will contact you to get information regarding the pre-sentence investigation. I would also like a victim impact statements to be requested. That means for the victims in the case, probation will be contacting you and asking you if you'd like to make a statement in writing or orally to probation. They provide that to me. In addition to that, victims are also welcome to speak at sentencing. Is there anything else we need to order between now and sentencing?
Your Honor, I think we picked October the 19th for the sentencing date, and I will contact probation officer Jones, because I spoke to him last week and told him this was coming, to prepare the referral for a bed at Turtle Creek, so that we hopefully have a bed that day.
So, Mr. Jackson, you should also cooperate with the preparation for Turtle Creek. I will tell you that Turtle Creek, which is the recommended sentencing treatment location, is a lockdown facility. They don't, let me say, they have a waiting period. So it's most likely that at sentencing, I will take you into custody. You will be in the jail until a bed opens up at Turtle Creek. So whatever you can do to work with probation and Turtle Creek to provide information prior to sentencing, that may make the process go a little bit quicker for you.
Your Honor.
All right, anything else from the state, Mr. Lee?
No, Judge.
Anything else from the defense?
Is he need to report to probation today, Your Honor?
Yes, he can report to probation today. I would, to start the pre-sentence investigation, that's 800 Broadway on the 5th floor. There's no sentencing order yet, so when you get there, you have to explain that it was just a plea today and not sentencing, and let them know what the sentencing date is. Anything further?
Another phone, Judge.
Any questions, Mr. Jackson?
No, ma'am.
All right, then we are set for sentencing October 19th at 9 a.m.
11.
I'm sorry, 11 a.m. So, Mr. Jackson, You've always been in court. You've been out on bond. You have not violated any conditions of your bond. Don't start now. All right?
Your Honor.
So you know that you're facing, being taken into custody the day you come back.
Yes, Your Honor.
There is a chance that you may not come back. I'm not saying that you should abscond, but if you do flee, and you do not come to court for sentencing, I can take that into consideration, and I'll just tell you that that would, make the agreed recommended sentence something I would not consider.
I understand you.
Okay. All right, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we will see you in October then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Oh, yeah. Timing.
Because it's not in the end stream. All right, there we go.